Hi folks, welcome back. So in the previous set of videos, we discussed about some of the little bit advanced steps about, Helm, basically how you can use the built-in objects and then how we can use, the value.yaml, how we can play around with multiple environments using the value.yaml and all those things. So in this particular video, let's focus on, the Helm flow control. Basically, using the conditional statements, how we can control our Helm chart flow, and then at the same time we'll touch base on the Helm template, I mean the Helm functions, like what are the usage of the functions in the Helm charts, what are the built-in functions, and there is a list of the functions which you can use according to your need and all those things. So let's go to our existing example, which is like my chart. So now what I have done is, for the demonstration of both function perspective, and I mean the function and the control flow, I have modified my chart. Before that, let's go to the official documentation, and under this chart template guide you will see something called as template functions and pipelines, and as well as the template function list and then flow control. So let's take a simple example. So you have this config map where what you have done is you have controlling it with the help of built-in object called release that name, which will give basically whatever when you do Helm install. Basically, let's see if we have an example of Helm install here. Unfortunately, no. But anyway, you're already familiar with this Helm install command. When after Helm install, when you give the release name, let's for example say it's an Nginx, then it will be like Nginx config map, and then forget about this code. So whatever like dot value dot favorite, dot drink, which is like a variable file which we saw inside this value dot YAML. This is the a one variable which they define under value.yaml, which is like favorite drink. So when you run this particular function, forget about this code. Now what it does is it just renders that whatever is present here. So if you observe closely, there is no double quote, there is no single quote, it's just a normal string. So when you install it, how it looks like is something, it's just if I have the rendering example. Unfortunately I don't have. Anyway, it just displays that coffee. That's, oh yeah, there you go, here. That's it, simple coffee. So now again, I want you to closely observe this. This is the variable name, favorite drink, coffee. So when this how I'm referencing it, dot value dot favorite drink. So when I run this, you can see here my config looks like this, as it is whatever is there here, favorite drink coffee, that I am rendering using dot value dot favorite drink for this key. So this is a value. So drink contains now coffee, that I am referencing with the help of this value dot favorite drink variable. So all good here. Now let's go back to this template function. So what if I want to put this string in the double quote? Can I do this? Yes, you can do this with the help of a built-in function called as quote. So what it does when it so with this particular reference for the value, this is your key. So now what I'm doing for the drink dot value dot favorite drink, and for the food dot value dot favorite food, which again we can see in this variable file here. So if we come down, yeah, favorite drink is coffee, favorite food is pizza. So now if I go back to my template function, so my expected is like it's coffee and pizza, which should be present in the double quote. So that is what it is going to happen when I run this. There you go. So what did we achieve here? So what we achieved here is, with the help of a built-in function called as quote, we are able to manipulate the built-in skeleton, I mean the existing skeleton, dynamically without affecting the template of the skeleton. So if you see, this is that a typical syntax of the function looks like function and the argument name. In this case, the function is quote and just a single line argument. So if you go to a section here, template function list, you'll find bundle of functions here. There is a typical functions, for the lists, for the math, float, reflection, network, blah blah. You can see a lot of examples here for almost each function. So you will come to know here. So if there is a I think more than 100 or 200 functions. I did not calculate the number, but you have the bunch of examples here for various purpose. You can always go back and refer these and use it in your chat. So I'm just giving you some samples here because it's very difficult to cover each and everything. I'm just giving you the concept. The concept is same for all. So let's go back here. So that's about this function. So now what did we achieve here? We just give it in the beginning itself and then we refer. Now if you are familiar with the Unix, you already know the concept of pipe. So you can achieve the same thing with the help of pipe as well. Now what I'll do, the same thing I'll modify a bit. So rather than putting quote in the beginning, dot value dot favorite dot drink pipe quote. So that is what you can achieve with the help of this pipeline. It's just a simple statement. So earlier in the beginning days we used to refer like this. Still some people refer like this, but the best approach or best recommended way is use this pipe. It's always good. So again, that will also give you the same thing. Now, what if the scenario where, for example, here I have my value.yaml where I have mentioned favorite drink as coffee and favorite food as pizza. Now, suppose I just removed this. So let's assume that I just removed this, but still when I run the chart, I want some value to be defined default by default, even if I forgot to mention this particular key. So let's assume that you have only this. So under the favorite section, you'd only have drink. Okay, now let's come back here. Okay, so now here there is a special function called as the default function. So let's come down. So there you go. So now what I'm doing for the drink, by default I'm supplying tea. So let's assume you have your coffee field which you let's see here, you have removed this or you have commented out. Now when I render the chat, by default if I don't mention here the drink as coffee, it should always display tea. That is what you are mentioning here using this field. So that is what I am giving in this section. If you go up where it is the default, yeah, so all you need to do is just go and replace this chat wherever it is, yeah, this drink with this particular line. So what it does is, if you explicitly mention in your value file as drink is equal to coffee, then the default value will not work. Always it will display coffee here. If you comment out the coffee, then what does is, by default whatever the value you have given tea, that it will go and display here. So now in between there is one more function here. See here, repeat and upper. As I said, right, if you go to the template function list, you have this. So if you go repeat, there if you click here, you will see the usage, right? So and upper as well. If you want your characters to be converted to upper, you can use that, and further you can pipe it with double quote. That's the beauty, I mean, like what you do is like, drink, coffee is there, right? What you do, you will repeat that word 5 times and then put it in a double quote. That is what it is doing. And what you do for food, we have already defined it as a pizza, right? I'm converting it to uppercase and putting in double quote. That is what it is going to do. Simple, right? These functions, like, you can play around and you can use this effectively in your production Helm charts. See, at the end of the day, you will be knowing your business requirement and your chat requirement. I'm damn sure, by this time you already know now how to create a skeleton of the Helm and create a simple manifest inside your template directory for the deployment, config, and all those things. Now, in the same video, I'm going to cover a little bit advanced Helm chart where I'm extending my existing Helm chart with something called as an HPA, and I'm introducing this all default classes and codes and everything. So you will understand more about that. So I hope I'm clear with this. So now let's go to this flow control statements. So here as well, it's just like an if-else condition statement. So again, if you see here flow control, in the Helm template language, it provides the control structures in 3 ways. One is of course, the typical if-else statement. The second one is with function. When you use with function, you can just specify the scope for your Helm template. And then if you use range function, it's just like for loop. if you want to repeatedly do certain activities which you defined in the value, let's assume you have defined inside a value maybe the resources for three different containers within your deployment, right? You may be using init container or something else. Now with the range function, if you want to supply, you can do it like that. It's a different or let's assume image pool secrets field you have defined, and you have say around three different different registries, and it is coming from three different registries because you want to isolate certain stuffs for a particular deployment. It's coming from one particular images are coming from one particular registry in some for some applications, like for example backend. Those images are stored in a different registry. For that, again, you have to create an image pool secret. So now what you will do in your value.yaml, you will define image pool secret, and there you will define three different image pool secret names. Now in the actual deployment .yaml, you can use range function and you can populate all three image pool secrets. That's the beauty, I mean, like that there are usage examples and which you can use according to your scenario. So with this width, and there are some special template segments called as a name template, where you will use define template block and all, which will touch base maybe in the next video when I touch base about name templates and subcharts and all those things. So right now let's focus only on the functions and then the basic flow control using if else. So let me go back to my example. What I have done the same my chart example. What I have done, if you go to the template, I have introduced a new uh, YAML, which is hpa.yaml. You can see here I have put a if condition. So in order to understand it better, you need to go to, yeah, there you go. So now you will understand it better. So what I have done is I have defined a new manifest inside my template function, which is for horizontal pod auto scaling. So for that, I have to define what I'm, the values, right? So if you see here, auto scaling, enabled flag, minimum replicas, maximum replicas, and on what basis it has to auto scale? Either based on my CPU or memory. So percentage also I have defined here. Now if you see here, there is a special flag called enabled. If you put this enabled as a false, then whether this HPA should be installed or not, or if you put enabled is equal to true, whether this HPA should be installed or not, what we have defined, let's go back and see inside a HPA. You can see here, if value dot autoscale dot enabled means if it is true, it's like negation statement, conditional statement by default like true or false. If it is defined as true, right, then only it will go further in this HPA block. Then what it will do, it will pick up the release namespace, and then it will render for what it has to reference. The scaling target would be your deployment name, again the release name, and the minimum replicas, maximum replicas, whatever you defined here, the corresponding value dot auto scaling dot minimum replica, value dot auto scaling dot maximum replica, and again metrics based on what metrics, the target CPU percentage, target memory percentage, right? Again, if these value dot auto scaling dot target CPU percentage is defined, then only you do this, or else come out of it. If value dot auto scaling dot target memory percentage is defined, then only you reference it, or else don't reference it. So this end, don't get confused, this end is for this, where basically you are defining that if the auto scaling is enabled in the beginning, then only you go with HP enablement. So now in the value.yaml, if I put it as a false, then this HP is not going to work. So let's test this, whether it is working or not. Okay. Now what I'll do, I have made modification only for this. I want to touch base one more aspect here. So if you go to templates and the deployment, I have modified my deployment definition little bit. So just now I was explaining you about the code functions, right? That the template functions. So I have just introduced a code function here. So for that sake, if you go here inside the value.yaml, I have removed the code from here so that it can put automatically code during the deployment itself. So what I'll do, I'll remove the code for you know, the other one as well. cd values dev.values. What I'll do, I'll remove the code for this as well so that dynamically let it add during the deployment. And also what I'll do, in order to demonstrate this conditional statement, I'll just make it as false. Now the expectation is HPA should not be installed, right? Now what we will do is I'll introduce you to one more new concept called dry run. What it will do is when it installs, how it looks like, it will just do dry run. Means same thing like Helm upgrade hyphen hyphen install. If it is not installed, upgrade first. It will make sure it installed. If it is already installed, it will upgrade. That I've already explained in my previous videos. This is my release name, and I'm releasing it in dev namespace doesn't exist. That's why it is creating a namespace. And then this is my chat version, and if you see here, it's referring the dev values, and then have given hyphen hyphen dry run. That means don't install it, but if when it is running it, when you actually install, what and all it is going to install, just display me. That is what it is going to show you. So always, you can use dry run and verify your charts whether it is working as expected or not. You can see here it is putting the double quote. Only one thing we missed here is, uh, see here, one thing we missed. What we missed is, so we removed the quote, of course, for both, but in the deployment, we are handling quote only for memory. I'm not handling it for limits. So let me handle it. cd my chart template. So if I go to deployment.yaml, you can see here, even though in the value.yaml, I'm handling it, but here the corresponding changes for the code I have not put. So that is what I'm going to put here. There you go. I'll just remove the blank spaces. Good. It is ready. Now, if I go and run the same dry run, it should put code for both. So let's test it. You can see here, this is one thing. And since we have enabled HPA as false, right, inside our dev.yaml. So if you see, it was like enabled. Okay, so what we will do, if I go to values and dev values, you see here I enabled is false. That is the reason why HPA did not enable. Now what we will do, we will go and we will make sure it is enabled now. I'll set to true. Now if I run my Helm chart dry run, it should, there you go. It is now giving me the HPA installation stuff as well. It's simple, I mean, like, it's very easy one. I mean, more and more you practice, you'll become perfect. But the concept wise, it's very, very simple. So that's and I also did one more stuff here which I wanted to show you. So if you go to template and if you go to service.yaml, I have introduced this default as well. That means if port is not specified, by default always you put 80. Now what I'll do, I will go to my value.yaml. So here, if you go to dev, I will remove this. Now if you see, I'm not supplying port. That means by default, it should always go to port 80, even though I don't mention it. Now if I run, I should not get any changes because I'm handling it in default method. So let's see that. So there you go. It is still showing 80, even though I did not mention it inside my value.yaml, yet it is referencing with the help of default class, I mean the default function which I have defined inside my config.yaml template definition. So I hope I'm clear with this. So I have one quite advanced example where you guys can understand it even more in detail. So here is an deployment example. Is this the one which I wanted to show you? It's a flow control and function. No, I think that is for name template and subchat. I think this should be fine. I think it's more than enough like to explain this concept. Maybe the named function and subchat I will give the quite a bit advanced example there. I think the concept would be further clarified in terms of using multiple scenarios of functions and advanced control statements. So with this, let's conclude this video. Uh, in the next session, I will be, explaining about, the subchats, basically the name templates and all those things. So, stay tuned and please do subscribe to my channel and support me. Thank you, friends.